to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Have a roll call, and again, if we'll start with Jim and work our way down the line. Jim Ritter, both back there.
Dan Carpenter, seat 1.
Verge Anderson, Grand Bay area.
Dave Tucker, District 3.
Jeremy McCullum, District 7.
Thank you. Okay.
Where's
We have the agenda in front of you. I need you please to review that, and I need a motion to approve or to change.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have the minutes from the last meeting, which was up in Forest Hill on May 19th. We had a chance to review those. And are there any corrections? Hearing no corrections, or is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the minutes as presented for the May 19th, 2022 meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Jim, you abstained from that? You abstained from those? Okay. All right. Let's see. We're moving on to public comment. And during this item, the public may address the commission on items that are not on this agenda. This public comment period is limited to 15 minutes. So please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. If all comments cannot be heard within the 15-minute time limit, the public comment will be taken up at the end of the regular meeting. The commission here, although we like to get the public comment and hear it, we're not permitted to take any action on the items addressed under public comments. So at that, is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a public comment? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Ken Chahosky from Granite Bay, and I actually live a block and a half from Douglas Ranch Park. And I just have to share with you, I'm part of the Granite Bay Football Club, our youth soccer, and we are fortunate to rent 3 parks from you. We rent Douglas Ranch Park, we rent Granite Bay Park, and we rent Weiss Park. And I encourage you, if you have time on your way home or some other place, to stop out and check a look out the fantastic fields that are in place after Jeff Baggett and his team over the last 3 or 4 years have done refurbishing of those 3 parks with Bermuda grass. In fact, you'd swear that you're probably on a golf course on one of the fields because it's in such pristine condition. And I just want to acknowledge the partnership with your parks team in the work that they've done. And I was out there painting lines for a soccer field, and I couldn't believe the surface. It was just impeccable. And Jeff has been quite a partner of ours, as of the rest of your team. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And is there any online comments? Seeing none, we will move on. At this time, we'll move to item 6, which is the report from the Director of Parks and Administrator. Andy?
We are gonna team up on that one tonight. So Steve is here and we'll take some of it and I'll begin. First thing I'd like to do is give a warm introduction to our new account technician, Kaylin Swinney, who is not able to be here tonight. I hope you get to meet her in September, but she just filled the position of account technician, has jumped right in and doing some great work helping Dina manage all the finances of parks now that we've pulled away from Public Works and are on our own. So we're excited to have Kaylin. She's a recent college graduate with a degree in accounting. So we're excited to have Kayleen, and we'll be happy to introduce you to her when she has a chance to be here in person. Next on the issues, staffing issues, we're also excited to be out for recruitment right now for senior project manager. So the CEO's office and board approved that position, a new position for us, so that our planners could focus on the increasing load of land use projects and private development projects that take up their time. And also with the passage of the Park and Trail Master Plan, the grant funds we have in place, we really were hurting to have somebody augment that project management and get those things off the ground. So we're excited about that. We'll keep you posted by September how things are going. That recruitment will be out until filled, but we'll take a look after the first or second week in August at what kind of field of applicants we have at that point. Try to get somebody on just as quick as we possibly can. After your meeting in May, just a couple days after your meeting in May, the Board of Supervisors unanimously adopted the Park and Trail Master Plan that your commission also recommended approval of, that we'd worked on for a number of years. So that was a really exciting milestone to get done with. And we're very excited to have an adopted Park and Trail Master Plan under our belt now to work from. I do want to go, and I hopefully there's a slide here. I did want to let you know that a couple of months ago, we closed escrow on 140 acres. You can see up there on the screen, you'll see the shape of Hidden Falls that you're familiar with in the lower left-hand corner. That's the 1,200 acres that's open today. And you were also involved in the subsequent environmental impact report for the lighter gray parcels and hatched parcels up to the upper right. The county had an opportunity. The landowner approached us with interest in selling, and the county purchased the 140 acres there in the salmon color, and that is now under our ownership. So you can see how that kind of filled in some of that area as purchased for open space. Wanted to let you know that's part of our inventory now. Also excited that our staff was able to finish the dog park under, Matt Williams is here. Matt, if you want to stand up and take a bow, I don't know if Matt's maybe not that kind of guy to do that sort of thing, but Matt and Jeremy just did a tremendous job. Jamie, pardon me, did a great job with the staff up in the dog park. Had a ribbon cutting just last week. And what's that? That's at Forest Hill Park. So that's first dog park in county's inventory, and very well received. Dogs were playing in it from the moment it was opened, and it's getting a lot of use, and just really well put together. They researched it really well, and it's just a great project to have done, very efficiently done by our staff. Also wanted a couple other notes. You had recommended $445,000 to Auburn Recreation District for their 24-acre park that has since been named Marriott Park or Marriott Meadows. That was approved by the Board of Supervisors in May. So that funding will be going. That's taken off of the park fee report that you'll see in a moment. So the board followed your recommendation and approved that funding that'll match the grant that will complete that park. I also want to encourage you to save a date. You'll be seeing correspondence on this shortly. But Martis Trail is now paved between North Star Drive and the town of Truckee through Martis Valley. And there will be a grand opening up off of North Star Drive, August 16th at 4 o'clock. And so we'd like you to save the date. We'd also like to hear from you if you do intend to be there. If more than two of you intend to be there, we'd be happy to notice it as a public meeting. So if you think there's a pretty good chance that you'd like to be there, maybe we could take a little straw poll. And if it looks like more than two want to be there, even if you're not sure, we'd be happy to notice that. So that was August 16th, 4 p.m.
And what's the location?
Off of North Star Drive, right by Highway 267.
Where are we at?
Yep. What do you think? Just doesn't have to be too formal, just an idea. Okay.
I'm checking now. August 16th.
Okay.
Yes, I would like.
All right, well, I hear is with Commissioner Bergman from that area, assuming he may want to be there, we will go ahead and notice it. So feel free to show up. We'll go ahead and notice it, and that'll work just fine. Next, we wanted to show you the restroom at Dutch Flat. Lisa Carnahan has been spearheading that project, and we've got turned out we have a really good contractor. They're almost finished with it, just about to open. So that's going to be a great addition to Dutch Flat Pool. That's paid for a combination of park fees and per capita grant funds from Proposition 68.
What was the final cost on that?
I want to say right around 225. The number I don't have in front of me, but it's right in that scale somewhere.
It's a beautiful building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taj Mahal. I
Mhm.
had no idea. I was expecting to be maybe one step up from the current restroom.
Right.
I went up there and went, well, no wonder it's costing so much. It's a beautiful building. I mean, the beam in front must be, anyway. And so it's open, right? They've been using it?
It is not open yet. We haven't gotten occupancy yet.
Oh,
Close. Within days.
I did speak to Lisa right before the meeting here, got an update from her. It's approximately 3 weeks out from being completely done. But she did, I think, get a temporary certificate of occupancy so that it can be used before that.
With that, I'll turn it over to our director.
I wanted to just give you a quick update on Bear River Campground and Day Use Area. As you're all aware, that has been the agreement with the state expires November 12th of this year. We've been reviewing it internally with staff. We received direction from the board of supervisors recently that they were not interested in moving forward with renewing the agreement and turning the property back over to the state. Was asked to attend the Weimer Applegate Colfax MAC. I'm going to get that right. So last night, Andy and I attended. We, gave a public presentation that the staff recommendation was going to be to not move forward with that. There was some public feedback that there was some interest in maybe revisiting that. So the Supervisor Gustafson and park staff office, we're going to work to put together a public, not sure if it's going to be a workshop. I'm not sure what the format's going to be, but we're going to have some discussion with the residents up there as far as whether it's a transition plan and what the state's plan is going to be. I believe we're going to invite the state to the meeting so we can kind of all talk, have all parties in the room when we're talking with them. So just an update for you.
And I believe that concludes our staff
Concludes
report.
it. Okay. We'll go on to the park dedication fee and fund analysis report.
You can see that the fund balance has been growing it's still a good pace. We're hearing signs that growth in sales may be slowing, but that's not showing up yet in our park fees. You'll see those accounts continuing to grow. Just some notes on the account balance. We did appropriate $460,000 to the Martis Trail that just hasn't from the accounting process been moved over into the project. So we hold it back here. Also a private development project in Martis Valley is eligible to receive credit against their fee payment of $156,201 if they provide trailhead parking. So we want to just make sure that those fees don't get double spent in the event that they take us up on it, provide that trailhead parking and get reimbursed. Also wanted to draw your attention to the Ophir Newcastle area. We've been speaking with the school district. Your commission recommended $150,000, you recall, at, I believe, the March meeting to renovate the field at Newcastle School off of Kentucky Greens and Taylor Road. We did run into some roadblocks, I guess I'd say, in terms of how we thought we could do the project, which was our own staff doing some of the work down there. It turns out public contract code does require that to be bid out. So we've returned to the school district. They're very understanding and cooperative, still committed to the project. So they are willing to complete the engineering and put together a complete bid package. That probably will result, we'll find out when they complete that in a month or two, hopefully, with an updated engineer's estimate of those costs. We may have to look further into the park fee accounts from either the Ophir Newcastle area, the Loomis area, or both, but we may have to increase. I expect we'll have to increase that commitment to get that project done. We'll keep you posted. If it does come down to a critical path of getting the thing bid and built at the right time, we may need to go directly to the Board of Supervisors with that amount and get it approved and report back to you. But if possible, we'll give you an update in September before we take any further action. And unless there's any other questions, that's all I was going to point out.
Okay. Thank you. We move on to item 8, which is the informational items, park facility rental fee update. That's you, Dan, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Wow, that is loud. Thank you, everyone. I know we came back. We talked about this last year, and this is something we've been working on for a while. We've done quite a bit of study on it. And so we're just going to start at the beginning. Kind of the purpose of this is to bring Placer County facilities in line with local markets, trying to avoid some field competition because of cheap rental rates, which we'll talk about. They're in here as well. We're trying to align our rates with the actual value of the facility and reduce pressure on the fields to allow time for walk-on activities. When I spoke to your commission last year, I had mentioned that we had some calls. Some folks had, mentioned that the fields were always packed. They couldn't get any time for public use, walk-on use. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to take into consideration as well. The revenue that is generated by increasing the fees is going to be directly applied back into the facilities. So we're not going to take money from Loomis and use it for Granite Bay or vice versa, anything like that. It's going to be staying in those facilities. And then we're trying to promote fairness and accountability with all our leagues, trying to be even-handed with them. So some of the challenges we've been facing, and there's a lot of them. I tried to do some quick bullet points here. Is we've had a huge growth in demand for the fields. A number of sport leagues served by the parks has more than doubled since 2018. We continue to receive requests. Just a week or two ago, a league reached out to Tracy and I. They wanted field time. They wanted us to commit to giving them field time. They're like, well, we're a new soccer league, 8 teams, we're small. And I'm like, we can't commit. We are strapped out for field time. Fields are full spring through fall. And one of the comments that was made again was from the public was there should be field time set aside for public non-league use. We have some folks that called, like a perfect example is Tree Lake. There's a family that every year they use the baseball field for a family kickball. They've been doing it for their son's birthday since he was little, and they struggled to try to find a little time to get on the field and have their annual event. So that's been a reoccurring theme is trying to find time for public use. And then one of the things we really want to define is what does the field reservation entitle a league to? Currently, it's kind of undefined, and we're working on a use policy for that as well. But it ends up being anything from league related, from photo day tournaments, all day tournaments, fundraisers, carnivals, and then, of course, obviously practicing games. And one of the incidents that happened this spring was I got several angry calls on a Monday saying the tournament we hosted at the park was a horrible event and there wasn't enough parking. And we had to back up and say, wait a minute, we don't host tournaments, and we didn't even know there was going to be a tournament. So when we're going to have that kind of public turnout, typically we would move that from just a league reservation to a special event permit application so that, we're aware that there's going to be 500 people there all day long, rolling in and out teams. And so we, that's one of the things we want to try to do with this policy change is define what are they getting for their rental, right? It's not just whatever they want for $2 an hour. So other issues discovered during this past season, especially in the springtime, is leagues bringing in portable generators and portable lights, which has all sorts of issues. As you know, there's special permitting and everything for field lights, and especially how it impacts the neighbors. We had one league bring in a bunch of food trucks, and they were essentially running a commercial operation on county property. So there's some problems there. And then we had one league that had a huge carnival, and they were charging people at the gate to get into the park. So, you know, there's just a lot of different things that, and it really seems to kind of, it compiled this spring into a lot of different things. We actually had, you know, because I was taking public complaints, and so I had one of my staff members go out kind of on a bi-weekly basis and just spend a half a day on a Saturday seeing what's going on in the parks during, you know, what the leagues are doing, what are they, you know, and report back and take photos. And that's kind of how I gathered a lot of this information. The sports seats, we seem to have a lot of issues in Tahoe with the sports seasons due to weather constraints. As you can see up there, if you look at baseball in the spring and soccer in the fall. And then what I found out is another little bit of information was mostly in Tahoe, they don't have normal leagues like we do down here. They're clubs and they play year round. And they want to have year round rugby or lacrosse, and then they want to have year round soccer. And it's, you know, we set up this season priority to try to make it fair to everyone. And it was, my predecessor worked on this for a couple of years to try to get it to where, you know, all the leagues kind of put in and said, yeah, this is fair. But we're having some overlapping issues in Tahoe. So they had quite a few comments they wanted to add, and I'll share those shortly. So the next one is we want to talk about the fee structure. And what we did is we did a survey of all the local agencies: Rockland, Davis, Cordova, El Dorado Hills, Roseville, Manteca, Lincoln, Cosumnes, Fair Oaks, and North Tahoe. And we just wanted to get kind of consensus. What are they charging for baseball and soccer hourly? And we came to the understanding we were well under the market value. If you look at the bottom on the left there, that's our current fee structure. It's quite different from everybody else. Everybody else has a flat fee structure now. They don't recognize nonprofit. They don't recognize whether it's a school or commercial. It's just all general use. And or at least for the most part. And I know there's some, and I found out this when we met with the leagues earlier in the week, is the Loomis Union, the school district, they have a special fee for nonprofit organizations, but they're probably the last one in our area that's still doing that. So anyways, our one of the things we discovered, and I mentioned this when we met back, I think it was in May of last year, was every single league that it plays any sort of sport in Placer County is nonprofit. It's when I did some research and I talked to some folks that are much more professional at youth sports. My kids didn't play very long, so I didn't have that experience, but you know, they say everybody's nonprofit. It's just, you go online, you pay your fee, you do some work, and I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it made it sound like to me it was pretty easy for just about every organization to get a nonprofit status. So that's kind of one of the problems is, you know, we're charging $2 for an hour for field usage and a $5 reservation fee. The other thing tied to that is they'll come in, they'll do their reservation, they'll pay their $5, and then they call back and they want to add 5 days. And then they'll call back and want to add 5 days. And they call back and want to add 5 days. And that creates a tremendous kind of a burden of time on our reservation system, which currently is Tracy. So while her primary function is not necessarily reservations, she spends about 90% of her day just doing reservations. So it's, you know, one of the things when you look at the other side, what we're kind of proposing a fee schedule is to bring ourselves in line. $30 for a baseball field an hour, $30 for a soccer field per hour. We wanted to talk about a synthetic turf premium. When we look at Roseville, they're charging about $100 an hour at Mahaney for their artificial turf. And then North Tahoe is also charging $100 an hour for their synthetic turf. One of the discussions we had internally was to put a premium on the synthetic turf and set those funds aside, because as you know, and we've come to your commission earlier, I think it was a year or two ago when we did Franklin, and it was a $500,000 project to replace that turf. And so when I talked to Roseville and them, I said, what is the thought process behind I kind of knew, but they set aside those extra funds and they build kind of a cushion so that when it comes time to replace that synthetic turf, it's not $1 million proposition on the taxpayers. It's, maybe it's a quarter of that, or, it gives them a significant leeway to say, look, we've raised this much money through field rental and we've saved it for the last 10 years. And now we have, now it's time to replace this field and it's much cheaper. And then there's a couple other on here. We wanted to look at raising the field reservation fee from $5 to $25. And part of that is kind of that encourage the leagues to iron out your schedule, right? Not to do 25 changes over the course of 4 months. And it just puts a burden on our staff to make those changes. So we were hoping that if we increase the field reservation fee per change, that would encourage the leagues to, iron out their calendars and be a little more, make that less complicated, so to speak. The other thing is we're looking at a damage security deposit per league. County Council is working on basically a field use agreement, which we don't really have right now, that will put some responsibility back on the leagues for what happens on the fields and things like that. And one of those items that they're discussing is a $2,500 a per season security deposit. And we could go into that more, but right now it's kind of in its concept stage. And then of course the zone of benefits, the CDFs or CFTs and the CSAs that have more than half of their kids playing in that zone of benefit. I'll give you an example. Granite Bay is a perfect example. They pay a kind of a premium for the fields and everything, and we would give them a discount if more than 50% of their kids live in that CSA. Well, then we'd give them a 50% discount on their league or their field fees. So these are all kind of ideas, and it's to spark a conversation about what's the right thing to do, where do we want to land, and that's why this is informational, because we're just here for discussion. And in a minute here, I'll take some comments from the commissioners. I guess I could just change my slide instead. So the policy features, what we're kind of looking to do is, again, align ourselves with neighboring agency rates, remove the pricing for nonprofit status, time for open public use, recognize league rosters in significant assessment areas, and that's where I mentioned the discount for those, credit for direct contribution for leagues, premium rates for artificial turf, and institute field use agreements. That's kind of what we're looking to do and what we're looking to accomplish with this policy change. So Tracy and I did meet twice this week. We met with many of the folks from the leagues on Monday at 2 p.m. and again Tuesday at 5 p.m. So we had 2 different meetings to try to accommodate as many people as we possibly could. We wanted to make sure we got as many voices in there. So these are just some of the notes I took and put them down here. The common theme from a lot of the leagues was a request for more field space. And this was primarily from the Granite Bay and the Tahoe groups. They, of course, everybody's question is when we talk about field policy, they're like, great, but what are you going to do about field space? So I said, I'll share that, but it's, that's not the exercise we're doing today. But I just wanted to throw it out there that folks in Granite Bay and Tahoe both seem to be clamoring for more space. The Tahoe leagues even wanted to go so far as to offer to assist with fundraising to help replace the field at Squaw Valley Park. There was a couple suggestions made by some of the league members. that asked if we would entertain the idea of instituting a sliding pay schedule increase over 2 or 3 years. To kind of give their leagues an opportunity to get used to this new fee structure, right? They said, well, what if we did $10 and $20 and then $30 over a 3-year period as an hourly rate increase to allow leagues to adjust and then look at how that's going to impact their leagues or clubs. And then on the flip side of that coin, there were some other leagues that were like, oh, we knew this was coming. We've been paying these other rates at these other agencies, and we just knew eventually you guys were going to get on board with, charging the same rates as some of the other agencies. So it was a mixed bag there for comments on that. I did some research, and some of the leagues in the Valley are charging anywhere from 400 to 600 kids per kid to play. And then some of the clubs in Tahoe are charging $600 to $1,000 for kids to play. And I know lacrosse is really big in Tahoe. That seems to be their biggest draw. So they kind of wrestle with soccer for time on the field. And then we have a couple leagues that are kind of special case that I talked to them specifically. And the communities that stand out are the Forest Hill Divide Little League. They only charge around $60 per child, and they often sponsor 15 to 20 kids who can't afford to play. So we do have some rural communities that, as we look at these rate changes, we really need to consider them as well. And Andy did send me the per capita information, and I did not get an opportunity to stick it in this slide, but Forest Hill and the Applegate area are, I don't know the terminology and underprivileged, but they're below the
Median income.
median income. Thank you, Andy. I've been talking too long because I'm already getting tired. So anyways, I think those are two kind of special case communities that we need to discuss as we start to have this conversation about field fees. And then in the Applegate, the Sierra Foothill Little League, that's the other one that serves mostly Colfax, Applegate kids. And they are also considerably cheaper than a lot of the other Valley leagues, and they charge $50 for T-ballers and 160 for AAA and above. So I think those two communities would be the ones most impacted. And if you, I don't know if you saw, but in our fee schedule now, Forest Hill only pays, I think it's $50 per, $50 per team per season for the whole season. So they've already been getting kind of a much cheaper rate than most of the bigger leagues. And I think that's always been historically because, they're a smaller rural community that are below the average median income. The last comment that I got from one of the members, he's actually one of the coaches up there. And he asked that when we redo the field at Squaw Valley, that we try to make an easier ADA access. And if I don't know how familiar you are with Squaw Valley, and maybe that's one of those locations we can visit when we go to Tahoe in September, but he's a coach up there, and he's tumbled a couple times getting around. And like I said, when we do a site visit, and I agree, there's, when we do plan that, that's obviously something we have to do anyway. As we always, when we're doing improvements, we look at improving the ADA access. So this is kind of the review timeline. July 18th and 19th, which we just passed us. We presented this information to the leagues, got some good feedback, which I shared with you tonight. And then tonight we're having our informational item, which we're sharing with you. August 31st, we're looking to have a draft to the council for review, county council. And then we wanted to come back to the Parks Commission in September to present a final draft, and then we'll be asking for an action item. October, we're going to do a final submittal to council for one last review, and then hope to get the policy change to the Board of Supervisors in November and enact the new policy on January 1st. So that's kind of our timeline, what we're working on right now. The last thing I have that I wanted to share was when I met with the leagues, I did encourage them. I said, if any of you want to come to the Parks Commission and, share your voice and talk about what we're doing here, feel free. And And of course, we knew that it was kind of short notice because we had a hard time wrangling a date with the leagues to try to get as many folks there as we could. And I did have a gentleman, Steve Lund, who was with Loomis Youth Soccer in 5 cities. He asked me if I could read this just verbatim, and it's in your packet. I think it's the last page in your packet. And I told him that I would do that for him. And we've had a long, good relationship with the folks in Loomis. So I will read his letter to you verbatim. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Steve Lund, and I am a volunteer board member with 5 Cities Softball and Loomis Youth Soccer. I wish I could be there to say this for myself, but I'm on my way to go camping with my kids. First off, thank you, Dan, commissioners, and the rest of the Parks Department for all you do for the Placer County community. I can honestly say I am never disappointed in the condition of our parks, and I have lived here for roughly 41 years. I am writing this with concern over the proposed increased rental fee for Placer County parks, specifically the elimination of a discount for nonprofits. I have heard it said a couple times that it is easy to get a 501c3 status, which I do not disagree with. However, it is not easy to maintain that status. A 501c3 must show every year through taxes that they do not make a profit and properly manage the organizational funds, among any other rules. Also, we simply do not make a profit and put all the funds back into equipment, fields, field maintenance, and low registration rates. The proposed increase for nonprofit is a 1,400% increase based on the fact that we are a nonprofit. The increase will need to be passed on through the registration fees, modifying the equipment budget and field maintenance. So let's be honest, this increase ultimately affects the kids that play in the league, or rather cannot afford to. In other scenarios, I've had parents express that their kids would not have had a chance to be exposed to sports if registration fees were much higher. I'm not saying there is not a need to increase the fees, but a 1,400% will greatly jeopardize the quality of local community sports, which greatly benefits the Placer County community. League sports not only promote athleticism, but promote sportsmanship and community, and help kids develop lifelong friendships with kids they would otherwise have never met, which also keeps kids active and out of trouble. Finally, regarding the comparison to similar local governments' park rental fees, I wanted to know if there was a service comparisons done as well. In Placer County, the sports leagues are striped chalked weekly by the prospective leagues. I believe some of the Parks Department reference take on this task internally. Is that something that the county has considered? Is the county going to start doing this? Also, did the county look at Loomis Union School District and their structure? Nonprofits with LUSD pay $10 for the same quality of field. Also, both Loomis Youth Soccer and 5 Cities Softball have spent thousands of dollars on upgrades and maintenance for Placer County fields in conjunction with the county, of course. This will not be able to happen if we have to exhaust reserves and no longer maintain those targets in order to keep registration rates low. Both 5 Cities Softball and Loomis Youth Soccer have some of the lowest registration rates on their respective arena, which is greatly accredited to our nonprofit status. Again, I do not disagree that there needs to be some adjustment for the rental fee, but removal of a nonprofit discount and increase of 1,400% for local community-based nonprofits will be damaging. Thank you again for your time and everything you do for the community. Please let me know if you need any help or information from 5 Cities Softball or Loomis Youth Soccer in this process. So that was from Steve. And I will say, Loomis Youth Soccer, when we started our turf renovation program, and I think I presented that to you not too long ago. They are one of the leagues that donated, materials, dirt, and the kids came out and helped volunteer to spread sprigs and things. But I'm not trying to sway anybody's opinion, but I told Steve I'd read his letter, and they're a good group. So I did. And that's kind of the end of my presentation. If you have any comments or questions you'd like to share.
Just talked about the hourly fee. Has anybody translated that down to what does that mean per team or per player?
So I have not. I will tell you that we looked at the current rates and the current leagues and how many hours they rented the field. And I didn't include that information in here, but For example, Lakeside Little League usually reserves about 1,000 hours per year on the field. But they also have about 1,000 players. So when you look at the offset, it's roughly $20 to $30 per child spread out over the course of an entire season.
I think we do collect the data to do that math, though.
Yeah, we did collect the data and it's kind of consistent with that. Of course, the smaller leagues are gonna be are gonna get hit harder than the bigger leagues and the ones that are fairly large.
But they also have fewer hours, I would assume.
Exactly. That's the case is when you look at how many hours the other leagues rent in comparison to Lakeside, which is really kind of our powerhouse big league in our system. There's significantly less hours rented. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? I've got a couple and it was brought up for in-kind work or
Yes.
making donations for materials.
Yeah.
Any kind of offset for that type of donation to the district?
And I think that's one of the things we covered earlier in the slide is that, you know, if we're doing a renovation and they want to donate, you know, $5,000 worth of sprigs or something like that, which has happened, or come out and help volunteer, we could certainly look at offsetting the cost of their field rental to, you know, to compensate for that donation to the community. I think at least that's the discussion we've had internally.
Okay. And then when you went out and did your survey, did you survey like fields for like fields? In other words, lit
Yeah.
fields versus unlit fields? Or
Yeah.
did you do unlit fields on both sides?
We did. They charge a premium for lit fields. They actually charge an hourly rate of around $20 to $25 to light the field for every hour that the field is rented. So their field rental fees does not include lighting.
When you say they,
So like Roseville and Auburn Rec and some of the ones that we looked at.
okay,
And I did not put the lighting charge in there because I was mostly looking at apples to apples, how much the field's rented, how much the field's rented. And then when you look at the lighting, they have a premium. So there's actually another column in there that I did not include. I was trying to condense the information of what was, you know, the apples to apples.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd say, well, yeah, they're $50 an hour to rent it if you add lights.
so this chart shows unlit fields compared to unlit.
Exactly.
All right, thank you. That's where I want to get to. All right. That takes care of my question right now, although I do have some information on Sunrise's field with $25 an hour, but that was for lit fields.
Okay.
I can get you better information on the rest of it.
So how many people, or I guess a better question, how many organizations would you say are looking to rent these fields that are not in the vicinity of these fields?
Quite a few. So when we look at currently, we are running about 28 leagues. The last time I met with you, we were running 30. We've had a couple drop off, partially because during COVID, we were one of the few agencies that were still allowing leagues to have field time. Other agencies had completely shut down. So we've kind of been inundated during COVID. And I think we're kind of back down to our baseline of 28 leagues. When Tracy and I ran the numbers, if you want to know how many residents would qualify for that discount residency, it's about 3 leagues out of 28. So we get leagues all the way from the Sacramento area wanting field time. You know, they're in fact, we had a group from Elk Grove wanting field time, and I didn't even entertain it. I just said no. So you know, and in my defense, it's hard enough to get field time for our residents and the kids that live in Placer County, let alone farm it out to other counties.
So do you think that if we became more competitive, what I would call competitive in the market, that it would, what I'm wondering is because we are so inexpensive that people are coming here, and so our fields are inundated, that if we were a little bit more on a level playing field, then they might be interested in staying and
Yeah.
Sacramento or Roseville, where then it would free up some of the time. So where I understand where they're coming from a little bit on this, but I think by being competitive, it might actually give the folks that live in the local area more space and time to access
And that's,
and have to travel as far.
that's exactly one of our goals is we're trying to eliminate some of that out of county, out of area that are using it simply because it's $2 an hour. And the parents are like, hey, it's so cheap, we'll drive 50 miles to the kids to play ball because it's, they're only charging $2 an hour. And we recognize that that's been a part of the problem. And another problem, not that I don't like travel ball, but they don't have, as Andy would say, they don't have any skin in the game. They're not interested in the condition of our fields. They're coming in from out of town. They want to snag up that $2 rate and they come in and they trash the fields and then they leave. And there's no recourse because we don't have any kind of policy in force or anything to say, wait a minute, you guys, and there's been times in the past where the past superintendent has, I guess it's not a good phrase, but kind of blackballed leagues or travel ball teams because of that very reason. They would come in, they would crash the facility, and then the residents would come in the next day on Sunday or whatever later in the evening, and the place is just a mess. So some of that is we're trying to make it fair, we're trying to make it competitive, and we're trying to discourage some of that kind of I'll call it kind of an abuse of the field, abuse of the system. And I know there are others. When I looked at the leagues and I looked at the calendars for some of these, like the city of Roseville and things, I mean, my leagues play there too. Our leagues play there too, and they play in some of these other little cities. And so they know they've been getting a pretty good deal from Placer County for a very long time. And we've been very vigorous with our renovation program. And I know I've talked to you guys about the millions and millions of gallons of water we saved. And that's kind of where we're at. We want to put the funds back in the fields. We want to put them back in the facilities. And it's kind of just part of that bigger picture of, continue to improve it for the community.
So would it make sense to, maybe look at like a premium for and I don't know if it can be done, but for these teams that are kind of coming out of the area versus folks that are in the area or residents in the area, and then maybe that's where the discount is, not necessarily nonprofit, for-profit, kind of a distinction there.
And that is one of the things that some of these agencies do. I know they do it a lot in Tahoe is they have a resident fee and a non-resident fee. And then they run those applications through kind of a GIS system and it determines, okay, they qualify for the discount, they don't qualify, that sort of thing. And we've had that discussion. We try to wrap our head around how exactly do you make that folks honest, right? And I think we've had that discussion with when we had one of our leagues last year miraculously had 20 kids move to Granite Bay. So from the Lincoln area. So there has been some, I'll call it tomfoolery with the rosters to try to qualify for the discount or that sort of thing. So we're trying to figure out exactly what is a fair way to make it, like I said, level and, not encourage people to be dishonest. I don't really know a better way to say that, but so that's one of the problems that we've trying to face right now, as it is with our zone of benefit areas where leagues get a pretty good premium for having that many kids in that zone. And I mean a resident non-resident thing might work, but again it's when you're in Granite Bay and you have kids from Loomis and Lincoln and Rockland, but the families in Granite Bay are paying into that. So what do we call a resident? What do we call a non-resident? When you're looking at that, it's a little more complicated. And the last thing that one of the things we're trying to do is simplify our reservation process, not have to hire another person to do the math or the GIS or the You know what I mean? So those are just some thoughts and like I said, I'm willing to listen if anybody wants to just send me thoughts randomly in an email or whatever. And it's not, like I said, I'm looking for as much feedback as I can get.
Sounds like a pretty good alligator to wrestle. Yeah, I appreciate the work that you're doing on this, Dan. We do have a question back here in the audience. We're open for questions and comments.
And I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Ken Chahosky. I'm with the Granite Bay Football Club, alias Youth Soccer for Granite Bay. And I wanted to answer some of the questions that you asked.
Okay.
So we represent 1,450 registered players this year. Last year with you, we spent $6,000 for FY21. We look at the cost increase as it's projected. We think we're going to go somewhere between $27,000 to $30,000. What we think that means across our kids is we're going to grow our registration fee from about $150 to about $175, plus or minus. Okay. Some other pertinent facts over the last 3 renovations that have happened in Granite Bay, we've contributed about $20,000 plus or minus to help Jeff do things. And we're pleased, as you heard earlier, with the outcomes. So please don't misinterpret that comment. And further, I've been in contact with the 5 youth leagues in Granite Bay, and we're proposed to help make more investments with you folks. In fact, when you talked about trying to restrict or grow, I would tell you right now, you may be able to restrict from people from, may I use the outgrowth concept, from some fee structure, but you won't reduce the use from the 5 sports leagues in Granite Bay. We go back to the point that was made earlier, which is there's not enough field space. And we want to help solve that with you. Okay, but I'm not going to get into that right now. What I want to help you do is acknowledge some of the points. I do agree with the deposit. If someone ruins the field, they need to take responsibility for the field. And we've done that in the past. We actually rent fields from 3 public agencies. We rent them from here, the Parks Commission. We rent them from the city of Roseville, and we rent them from Eureka School District. Okay. And we did 8 years ago have to pay a damage fee for damage in Hillsborough Park. Okay. And we stand behind that. If we did it, we'll do it. And we paid it. And that's just the cost of admission. I'd encourage you to think about what I call the tapering process so that we can plan and we can notify people in advance. It's a lot to go from 6,000 a year to 30,000 a year or 25. You know, no one's audited my numbers. We did the best we could to answer your question, if that's fair. And we want to partner with you. Really, the bottom line is we appreciate the parks we have. We wish we had more. Okay. And if you had lights, maybe that changes availability, but you're not going to put lights in Granite Bay Park because Princeton Reach will sue you. You're not going to probably put lights in Feist because the neighborhood there probably wouldn't agree with it either. But we need to consider where we could and how we could, you know, and so we'd love to partner. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do. I'm going to tell you the impact it has to us. Is that fair? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any other questions from the comments from the commission? All right. Dan, thank you very much. I know this has been a lot of work on your plate.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are no action items. And now we move to commissioner comments. And if we can start to my left, Jim.
I attended the Weimar Applegate Colfax MAC last night and it was a heck of I just thought there would be a report about Bear River Campground, and you know we've been alerted that the county and the state were involved in contract negotiations. I think we were surprised, and certainly a lot of the people in the audience were surprised that all of a sudden there's not, it's just going to be turned over to the state, and They didn't know what was going to happen because it's being used, particularly the free day use area. And so I'm glad that we're planning on setting up some sort of a workshop or a working committee with the locals to kind of figure out what they really do want, because, you know, we're between two things, whether or not we should manage state land and pay for it, or whether we should protect the county taxpayers and, you know, go that direction, or maybe it's a hybrid. So I thought it was a very, very good meeting last night, and I think we all came away with a lot more understanding about what's going on. And that's really all I have to say.
Okay. Any comment?
It's apparent that it is time to take a good look at the fee structure. And I appreciate that you're taking a real balanced approach to looking at it, not just looking at it from one perspective, but involving lots of thought and lots of other people. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I think the easiest way to take care of the resident, non-resident is to balance out the fee structure and make it equitable. No matter if you're going in Sacramento County or in Placer County, Roseville or Loomis or Sheridan. But try and even that out in such a fashion where the people that are in that area can use that, and if they don't save $100 by going 10 miles. So I think the fee schedule is probably the easiest way to do it. And tapering sounds like a good idea, because anytime you raise a tax, which is, I know it's just a fee, but it's still a tax. So anytime you raise that real quick like that, people just can't afford it. So they can ease into it, and it's a mental thing as well as a physical. Fiscal.
For the most part, there wouldn't be a fee increase until the following season.
That's, yeah.
So they're gonna have essentially a year if this doesn't, you know, all the fall sports for this year are protected already, so to speak.
But $5 an hour is a bargain. No matter where you're living in the state of California. And the only thing that's better is free. So, so yeah, I think it needs to be addressed. Thank you for that. We have a meeting coming up on Friday, the 16th. It's a Tahoe tour. And that's Friday, September 16th. And I was wondering, are we planning on ride sharing, and what are the hours of the tour? Or
So generally, we try to leave Auburn. We do offer ride sharing. We do offer a van, and you're welcome to hop on the van. And but if you elect to drive yourself, you can do that as well. We don't pay mileage if you do elect to go yourself. When we do offer the van, I'll throw that in. That is our typically 1 day a year, all day tour. We try to leave around 8 o'clock or slightly earlier even from Auburn. Get up, and the last couple of years we focused on, I think, the Martis Valley, North Tahoe area. We'd like to try to see some of the sites along the Highway 89 corridor, West Shore, maybe even up on the summit, and Cisco Grove, Gould Park, some of the other places we have along the way, and mix it up a little bit from what we've seen. But generally that is an all-day tour, starts about 8 o'clock, and sometimes if we have dinner in the high country, we don't get home till about 9 at night down here.
okay.
And it is Friday, yes.
Okay. And then I do have a question. We had in his report, the Squaw Valley Park. And I was wondering, has there been any talk of a name change, or what does it take for a name change to go through? Because it's Olympic Valley now, and it's Palisades and not PC to have Squaw Valley. And I didn't know if the county was entertaining or would entertain a name change.
We are in the middle of that process. We are kind of following behind the federal process that's naming the federal features, geographic features up there. And I think we're going to follow just a little behind that.
Okay. And then if we can be kept updated on that, just
Yeah.
as a curiosity thing.
But we are definitely open to that and definitely in process.
Okay.
And I would add, the only reason I kept the name in there is because it has not changed. And I've had confusion with folks wanting to rent Palisades Park and other things of that nature. So I'm just, I'm just calling it what it is for now. And I realize it's not, very politically correct, but
You may end up with two names if it ever does get changed.
well,
This park
it's just a
formerly
matter
this
of
park, yeah.
keeping from causing confusion, because when they call it one to rent Palisades, I'm not sure if they're calling our Park Palisades or if they're talking about Palisades or, so just for the time being, I'm calling it what it is.
Yeah, it's gonna be, anytime a name change happens, it's.
I know.
I'll add in there that they confuse me when they talk about Squaw Valley and Olympic Valley. I'm just now got on board with that, so.
I know where Squaw Valley is. I don't know where this Olympic thing is, you know. Let's see. No other items on the agenda, and we know when and where our next meeting is gonna be. I'm going to call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.